Kriya Yoga. Synthesis of a personal experience. Part 1. My search of original Kriya. Chapter 1. Decision to start the practice of pranayam. My spiritual search began at age 15 after I bought an introductory book on classical yoga. I don't remember the title of that first book, but books of BKS Iyengar followed, and then finally the autobiography of an Indian saint, where I found the term Kriya Yoga. But first things first. In primary school, unlike my peers, I borrowed esoteric books from my parents' friends, and I loved those books. I remember that the first one I read from end to end was on occultism. Knowing the book was considered unsuitable for my age, I was proud to be able to read and understand it. I turned a deaf ear to any persuasive advice to dedicate myself to more formative readings. I wasted a lot of time on worthless books and stacks of specialized esoteric magazines with tantalizing titles and idle fancies designed essentially to impress, and which were impossible to distinguish in advance between fact and fiction. I also came into contact with the main themes of Occidental esotericism with short digressions into phenomena like hypnosis and spiritualism. I continued these readings until I was about 11 years old. In the end, I felt I had traveled through an indistinct chaos and thought that perhaps the most precious secrets were hidden in other books which I had not been fortunate enough to find. I saw the word yoga for the first time in a postal catalogue of esoteric books among my father's correspondence. I was entranced and inexplicably spellbound by the person pictured on the cover sitting in the lotus position. However, I couldn't persuade my father to buy the book for me. When I was 15 and in high school, the esoteric flame was rekindled for a while in a particular way. A friend told me he had a detailed textbook containing different pranayam techniques, and added, "These exercises are used to obtain inner transformation." I was deeply intrigued by his words. What internal transformation was he talking about? Surely my friend didn't mean the attainment of a particular state of relaxation or concentration, or how to integrate the Oriental vision of existence with our lifestyle. He must be referring to some intense experience that left a lasting psychological mark. Pranayam was something I had to learn as soon as possible. But my friend would not lend me the book. A few days later at the train station newsstand, I spotted a simple Hatha Yoga manual and bought it forthwith and read it in its entirety. Although I thought I was searching for physical and mental control, my spiritual search had in fact begun. This book had a long philosophical introduction that did not stir up anything spiritual. It was neither impressive nor thought-provoking. Jiva, Prakriti, Purusha. The author's goal seemed to be solely to give the reader the impression of serious authority. Even concepts like reincarnation, karma, dharma, and maya, the understanding of which in the future would become so important in my life, remained unfathomable, hidden in a tangle of Sanskrit terms. Pranayam was only hinted at by explaining how to do a complete breath, dilating the abdomen, diaphragm, and upper chest during inhalation and contracting the same in reverse order for a calm exhalation. That was clearly an introduction, nothing else. I was sure that the ancient art of pranayam was not intended simply to train the chest muscles, strengthen the diaphragm, or create peculiar conditions of blood oxygenation, but was also meant to act on the energy present in the psychophysical system. It was common knowledge that the inharmonious state of that energy could be related to conflicts and disharmonies within. I was frustrated about the lack of in-depth information about pranayam. The author concluded by saying that pranayam should be learned from an experienced teacher, but instead of adding a precise indication, the title of a book, the name of a school, he remained vague about exactly how to find him, maintaining that we find the teacher when we are ready to learn. As for asanas, the book explained the name of each posture, asana, gave a brief note on the best mental attitude for practicing it, and explained how each exercise stimulated certain physiological functions, important endocrine glands, etc. It was taken for granted that these positions were not to be seen as simple, stretching workouts, but were a means of providing a global stimulus to all the physical organs to increase their vitality. The satisfaction I felt at the end of a session spoke to their effectiveness. I began doing yoga postures, asanas, in a corner of our school gymnasium during physical education classes. I wasn't very good in sports anyway, despite being well conditioned by long walks. Moreover, being able to do something significant without the inherent risks of popular and common sports attracted me. After the preliminary group warm-up exercises, when the teacher gave me permission to work out on my own, I devoted myself to mastering yoga positions or moving the abdominal muscles with the nollie technique. To my amazement, one day the teacher, whom I had assumed had an opinion of me close to zero, came over and inquired as to the secret of succeeding in moving the abdominal muscles in such curious way. I tried to explain how simple it was, provided that you had the constancy to work daily at it for a couple of weeks. Important technique to stop the thinking mind. In that unassuming but appreciable book, there was an entire chapter devoted to the corpse pose, Savasana, the last one to be practiced in the daily asana routine. The instruction was very clearly given, and the author did not lose his focus in useless philosophical embellishments. He explained that the purpose of the exercise was to quiet the mental faculties in order to recharge the whole psychophysical system with fresh energy. I was attracted by the grandiose promise that by stopping all mental functions, without falling into a state of sleep, and remaining for some time in a state of pure awareness, one could obtain within 1 hour the equivalent of 5 hours sleep. I regret not having the book anymore, but I will describe the exercise based upon what I remember. Lie in the supine position with arms extended alongside the body and with eyes closed, covered with a cloth to keep the light out as much as possible. After staying still for 2 or 3 minutes, mentally repeat, I am relaxed, I am calm, I am not thinking of anything. Then, to enter the state of mental void, visualize your thoughts, including those with abstract qualities, and push them away one by one as if an internal hand were moving them gently from the center of a mental screen toward its outer edge. All thoughts, without exception, must be put aside, even the thought itself of practicing a technique. You should never become annoyed by continuous new thoughts. Picture them as objects and shift them aside. In this way, new chains of thought are prevented from coming out. After pushing a thought away, return your awareness to the small spot between the eyebrows, kutastha, which resembles a pond of peace, and relax therein. The ability to continuously push away thoughts that knock at the door of your attention will become almost automatic. When, on some occasion, such as practicing immediately after a strong emotional incident, the mechanism does not seem to work, convert your concentration into a small needle which constantly touches the area between the eyebrows, just touching, without worrying about shifting thoughts aside. You will notice that at a certain point there is no more effort, and any remaining restless emotion subsides. The seeds of new thoughts starting to take shape as indefinite images quivering at the edge of awareness cannot disturb your mental rest. Whichever of the two methods you choose, the exercise works perfectly, and after 40 minutes you get up well rested and recharged with new fresh energy. In my experience, in spite of the 40 minutes promised by the book, the final state of relaxation lasted no more than 20 minutes, and the exercise itself never more than 25 to 30 minutes altogether. The technique inevitably ends in a peculiar way. The state of deep calmness is interrupted by the thought that the exercise had not yet begun. The body always reacts with a wince and a faster heartbeat. After a few seconds, confidence that the exercise had been perfectly executed appears. Thanks to this technique, which became a daily habit, I realized once and for all the difference between mind and awareness. When the mental process is eased off into perfect silence, pure awareness without content arises. Like a luminous point duplicating itself an unlimited amount of times, it remains unchanged for some minutes. You know you exist and that your existence is indestructible. This happens without thinking. You have the indisputable experience that thoughts are in essence ephemeral, and instead of revealing the final truth, they cloud it. I think that the Cartesian deduction, I think, therefore I am, is indefensible. It would be more correct to affirm, only in the silence of no thought lies the proof and the intimate certainty of existing.